If there's one way I want to start this video off, it's by saying that 5 inches is perfect for me. Gaming. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in like the best era to be a fan of these things. I mean, just with the purchase of a Steam Deck or a Switch 2, you basically are going to create a backlog that is so big that you're going to turn into my grandmother.
My backlog is so big, I gotta put games in the will.
And although they all kind of look the same right now, handhelds actually used to be some of the weirdest, wackiest forms of technology that we've ever seen. And the biggest change we have seen over the past few decades with handhelds is, of course, the internal specs and the sheer power of these things, but also the size, man. These handhelds are just massive. And I've been thinking about this so much, how we basically just collectively agreed that we should sacrifice the size of our handhelds and trade it for just better and more power. And I'm not gonna lie, somewhere within this trade of power and portability, we have lost something very special. And the more that I think about this, dude, the more it sends me down this philosophical spiral and this rabbit hole where I can't help but think that this is a perfect reflection of all of our consumption habits and how hardware and media is changing to adapt to our weird, more introverted society and behaviors.
Hey, Isaac, can you stop yapping for 2 seconds and make me some food?
Okay, well, can't you see I'm kind of in the middle of something right now?
Well, I want to eat now, so if you can't help me out, you're gone.
Big thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's episode. They're just a convenient way to get nutritional meals without falling to the temptation of eating junk food and fast food with your wife every day. They're ready in like 2 minutes. There's hardly any prep or cleanup afterwards, and it is just so dang convenient. And my favorite thing is that they actually prioritize protein, because hitting your protein goals is almost impossible. I have to consume like 200 grams of protein every single day, and you know, a lot of these meals have 30 if not 50 grams of protein, which is helpful to me. Head on over to factor75.com or use my link in the description with code isaacOSF for 50% off your first box plus some free daily greens. You get 1 per box with an active subscription, and the free meals are applied as a discount on the first box for new or returning subscribers only, and it does vary by plan. Go ahead and sign up today, and thank you so much, Factor, for keeping the lights on and my grandma not kicking me out. Most of you probably had your first handheld experience on a device that was half the size of the things that we have today, unless, you know, you were one of those unfortunate souls who owned an Atari Lynx. I mean, this thing is just massive. I was looking at the photos of this, and it's just, what were we doing here? Before the current era of iPad handhelds, what we considered to be known as portable was completely different. Back in, you know, 2000s, 2010s, the portable handheld was more of like an accessory and something that you actually wanted to take with you when you left the house. The purpose of these devices was completely different, and it was supposed to be something that fit into your pocket, and you could see this intention then bleed into the design, because we got much smaller handhelds that were built for the road, and nothing proves this more than the greatest design of all time for handhelds, the clamshell. These things are bigger, have better ergonomics for your eyes because you're viewing it at a higher angle, and on top of this, you can close them up and then protect all of your buttons, the screen at the exact same time, and it makes the device half the size. Dude, the clamshell is, I will stand by this until I die, it is peak handheld form factor. A DS that is closed up is something I can just throw in a backpack and not even have to worry about it, because it feels nice, closed, and, you know, tucked in and ready for bed. Meanwhile, like a Switch 2 or a Steam Deck, if I put this thing on my nightstand, which I do all the time, there's a little part of my brain that's kind of terrified something horrible is going to happen to it. And the software in games also reflected the idea that you would be outside using the handheld and not just stuck on your couch. Developers assumed that you didn't have 4,000 hours to rebuild an entire civilization from scratch and knew that you maybe had 10, 20 minutes, depending on where you were, to just circle a Pokemon 4,000 times. With these smaller handhelds, you didn't really dedicate or try and schedule in your gaming sessions. These things more so adapted to your day and kind of were spontaneous with when you would play, and that's because you always had it on you. And I remember things like I would be in church and I had my GBA SP, and every time people would stand up to start singing, I knew I had a small opportunity where nobody was looking to play a little bit of Battle Network and kill some viruses, or maybe slap Cell in the face in Legacy of Goku 2. These smaller handhelds shapeshift into matching your schedule or whatever church session you're in at the moment. And the most jarring realization about this is that we still have these small moments and gaps of time throughout our day. We just fill them differently now. If you ever go to Target with your wife, you'll have like a solid hour of just downtime and nothingness where you could be playing video games while your wife is looking at sweaters that are trying to convince her to divorce you. But when I'm here, I'm not playing Minish Cap on my GBA SP. Instead, I'm doom scrolling on my phone, looking at a bunch of different ads, politics, and YouTube videos of people triple my age telling me that my life is precious and it will go by insanely fast. The smartphone has done irreversible damage not only to our society, but even things like gaming handhelds. Nintendo and Sony, during the 2010s when things were really starting to skyrocket, realized, we cannot compete with Pocket God and Temple Run being just immediately accessible on their phone. So we've got to do the opposite and make everything bigger. The Nintendo Switch burst onto the scene almost 10 years ago, which kind of hurts to say out loud, I'm not gonna lie. And my goodness, did everybody lose their mind over Breath of the Wild and the ability to play it portably. I have no choice but to moan and cream over Breath of the Wild every time it gets brought up, because this game, it just had such a big impact on me and everybody else who adopted the newer generation of the Switch, and it was just so good, man. I'd pay an absurd amount of money to wipe all of my memories and play it with a fresh start. If I ever get dementia when I'm older, I'm running this thing back. And of course, this hybrid concept exploded and would go on to be one of, if not the best-selling consoles of all time. It was a great time, especially for people who suffered throughout the Wii U era. And of course, with the success of the Switch, Nintendo were like, hold on, let's make it bigger, and that's it. Let's have a big boy now. The Switch 2 is like when Cell did that weird tail-sucking thing on Android 18, and I watched this as a kid, and I was so traumatized by what I was witnessing, but we've kind of seen this again, but it's Nintendo now just sucking up the original Switch to make themselves even more powerful. The Switch 2 is a full console experience, AAA power, smoother and better performance, and besides the fact that there's no OLED screen, just a better product overall. And most relevant for this video is that the Switch 2 is massive. 11 inches wide, an 8-inch screen. This is Nintendo saying that they don't want to fit into your pockets anymore. They'd rather just drain them. And at first glance, this doesn't seem like a big deal. It's just a bit bigger in size, but I've realized this has fundamentally changed my relationship with handheld gaming. It's no longer something that I can keep on me for random quick sessions. This has become a device that pretty much stays at my home and is bound only to my couch, maybe my bed, sometimes an airplane, and that's about it. The time spent on these handhelds is getting longer and heavier, and the friction has increased because I'm worried about things like my battery life all the time. And it's completely different from my relationship with a DS Lite, where this thing I could just keep in my pocket, randomly whip it out, and concoct the most diabolical message in PictoChat. Now, this is the part of the video where I feel very tempted to hit you with the "we had it better back in the day, and handhelds were never supposed to be this big, and the smaller handhelds are superior in every single way." But when I objectively look at both of these eras and handhelds and designs, I think the modern ones are just better. And I say that mainly because I don't go outside anymore. My favorite thing in this entire world is the downtime that I get at the end of each day to just sit on the couch with my wife, my dogs, doing absolutely nothing while simultaneously getting eaten by the couch. I'm so grateful for the time that I have here to spend with them while also enjoying my cute little Nintendo games. Modern handhelds are simply an exploitation that furthers this entire concept. They have been carefully built to be an accessory to your couch, man. I'm telling you, this is what they had in mind, I'm guessing, when they were designing these things. These handhelds, while massive, have unlocked other rooms in my house for me to get away from the desk that I spend like 8 hours a day editing and making these videos on. And for the most part, gone are the days where I leave the house thinking I should grab or bring a handheld with me. And when I first realized this, a huge wave of sadness kind of washed over me because it feels more and more as I get older that I'm just getting more and more locked into my room and I'm going outside less and less. And it's not a nice feeling. And these companies are definitely encouraging it because the more we concave in on ourselves and don't go outside and stare at the screens that they provide us, the more likely we are to buy things and give them advertiser money. Throughout this handheld revolution, the aspect of community has been completely thrown aside. It makes me think about things like the 3DS Street Pass, and you would randomly walk past somebody else with another 3DS, and then your devices would quietly connect, and suddenly you were tethered to this random person and connected to them without even meeting them. And it was this kind of beautiful thing where you were building a sense of community with other people that also enjoyed the same games and devices that you did. Because of these things, smaller handhelds felt like they were trying to be a part of our daily lives rather than something meant to help us escape our daily lives. They were more integrated with our environment, and you can even see that when you watch older YouTube videos of people gathering around for, Street Pass meetups, and I even saw one of like people just hanging out playing the DS together. This stuff doesn't really happen anymore. Nowadays, the incentive to be social has been completely stripped back, and I think they did this with the hopes that you'll get bored easier and then buy more software on the device. And because we're not leaving our homes as much anymore, the devices have adapted to fit our couches, which means they're just getting bigger. But I truly do feel like there is a silver lining with these modern handhelds if you look for it. When I was younger, gaming was something that I would stumble into all the time and also something that I tried to force everywhere. But now it is a much more deliberate escape for me. And because of that, it's naturally tied to things and places and spots in my home that I'm more comfortable in. With these things, it's given us the opportunity to destroy our backlog or dabble in emulation or even play AAA games now separated from a home console and a TV, all while comfortably sitting on the couch while your wife yells at you and your two dogs won't stop barking. The bigger form factor and size of these things does help create a much more immersive experience where you can easily escape into those worlds where you're like romancing a mind flayer that looks like Squidward or playing as a monkey and smashing the ground with your hands. We've gotten so used to filling every single waking moment in our lives with something, whether that be a video, a scroll, a song, a video game. I mean, it's like silence nowadays just feels weird, and it's almost like if we're not consuming something, then we're wasting our time, which is exactly what the companies want us to think. Losing the social aspects and the community-driven parts of these devices is probably the most painful thing, but even this can be embraced fully by realizing maybe it was just a bit of a crutch to get you more involved in the community. When I was younger, I used to only get social interaction online and through video games. It sounds disgusting, but it was my job, dude. I was an esports player. The only social interaction I had was online video games, man. And nowadays, now that I'm older, The idea of socializing through video games makes me want to jump in front of an Ubered Heavy. It's just not the same, man, as actually being involved in a community and going outside. I don't know how this video is turning into me talking about leaving the house more, but this is where it's going, dude. And then when I go back and play the video games, it's a better time because it feels like I'm fully dedicated and present with whatever I'm playing. With every hobby, especially video games, it's very easy to let it control every single waking moment of downtime that you have. And even on smaller handhelds, I've noticed that this was more possible than ever. So yes, our relationship with the devices has definitely changed as they've evolved and gotten bigger, but maybe it's a healthier relationship than we realize.
Violent, that's what we show, not private. Better keep to yourself, stay silent. If it come to the wealth, get violent. Start riots, violent. This why my money, my outlet. Only show my colors on outfit. I will put my life for the outbid. This my shit, raised up in a D